Science fiction storytelling exists from the beginning of filmmaking and persists through 2 centuries.
In the early 80s, there was this wonderful explosion of highly imaginative, highly ambitious science fiction. Suddenly all sorts of stories that were prohibitive, either because technologically they weren't possible, were suddenly possible now.
When I think of science fiction, I think of stories in any medium that tell us what we could be and warn us about where we're going.
Escaping when you're a little kid or a teenager into the world of science fiction is a great way to start to come to terms with your own personality, who you are, where you fit in the world, and they become really important benchmarks in how you remember your youth.
For the next decade or so across the 80s, that amalgamation of science, fiction, and fantasy seemed to be the driving force.
Science fiction became direct, straightforward, provocative, clear.
Any idea that anybody had, if you set it on another planet or set it in the future or set it in dystopia, you could get the money to do it.
Art shows us what can be and what ought to be. That is what science fiction at its best is all about, is showing us the world of tomorrow and how human life can be better in the future than it is right now.
That's the magic of sci-fi, man.
George Lucas was a gift. He changed the whole world of cinema. He introduced all of these new ideas. How do you explain that experience? It was meant to be. It changed everything. The whole Star Wars experience is a phenomenon. It opened up horizons in a way that nobody ever imagined.
I'm going in.
Yeah, I loved it.
The force is strong in this one.
I always felt that George Lucas was a very unique individual who had a unique point of view. But I often wondered if he knew what he was really introducing.
The Empire Strikes Back. Coming to your galaxy next summer.
With Lando, I didn't want to make a black character or a white character. Lando is Lando. It's like Billy D to me is Billy D. I want to show you my own personal uniqueness.
How you doing, you old pirate? So good to see you.
I wanted to talk about that swashbuckling kind of individual.
Welcome, Leia.
It was an honor to work with Kirshner. He was a real actor's director, for one thing. So he really understood the human behavior.
Well, Your Highness, guess this is it.
That's right.
Don't get all mushy on me. So long, Princess.
It wasn't just purely based on this kind of a journey into space.
Punch it!
One of the great things about playing a kind of a dubious character, they're not bad people. They're just caught up in situations. I remember picking my daughter up from school, and the kids would accuse me of betraying Han Solo. And I'm right in the middle of the schoolyard, having this debate with these kids.
I had no choice. They arrived right before you did. I'm sorry.
If you express those characters through a kind of vulnerability, then I think it makes it more palatable and much more interesting.
I am your father.
George wanted to keep everything secret. He wanted everything to be a surprise in the movie. Unlike Carrie and Mark, who signed contracts for multiple movies, Harrison only signed for one movie, and each movie was a separate contract with him. George wasn't sure he would come back for Jedi, so that's why at the end of Empire, Han Solo gets frozen in carbonite.
I love you.
I know.
They needed a way, if Harrison didn't come back for the third movie, how do you explain what happened? But if he does come back, you defrost him and we're all happy.
George is more of an idea person that has these great, fantastic visions. And I was a little bit surprised because he was talking about the budget for Empire Strikes Back. And he was trying to figure out how not to spend more money than he spent on the first Star Wars movie. I'm thinking this guy is this monolith as far as creativity is concerned. But here's a guy thinking about how much money am I spending to put an idea together? You know, it's show business. You know?
Part of the pressure that George was feeling was because he had financed Empire himself as opposed to having a studio do it. And when the movie ran over time and budget, he had to put up more collateral. And so there was a lot of pressure that had the movie not been successful, he could have ended up back at the start.
What Star Wars did, both in terms of the visual effects, but also George's approach to the storytelling aspect of it, was it opened up the door for genre films that people had been afraid to make before. It's driven by the story.
Star Wars had this wonderful level of authenticity. Just required a lot less of that suspension of disbelief. It was a real revolution in storytelling.
What cinema could do and storytelling can do and a connection with the audience can do was absolutely at its height. I think that even for Lucas, the expectation became unattainably high.
The saga lives on. Return of the Jedi.
There's stuff in Jedi that is absolutely masterful, that I have really fond memories of.
Get alongside that one.
The chase through the forest, which is like an epic piece of cinema. I love that sequence so much.
I did go see Return of the Jedi 23 times in the theater. The Sarlacc pit and Jabba's gonna throw them all in there, but Luke's got the plan with R2. You'd think that there would have been this big battle with Boba Fett and someone and Han, right? He just gets like accidentally rocket packed into the side of Jabba's big space cruiser
and becomes a burp joke. Boba Fett first showed up in the Star Wars Holiday Special in the animated sequence. He was supposed to be the main villain in the movie that turned out to be called Return of the Jedi. It was all going to be about chasing Boba, rescuing Han Solo. But during the making of Empire, George decided he did not want to make more Star Wars movies. I was sitting with him in a sound mixing room, and he told me that he had made this decision and was going to end, and that's why he was going to condense the third trilogy and the redemption of Darth Vader into Return of the Jedi. And then Boba, he went from going to be a big star to an afterthought.
When we came onto the set, they had these shirts that said Blue Harvest, sort of like just a distraction for the local people that they wouldn't find out that we were doing a Star Wars movie. The first time we go out to dinner and Carrie Fisher, Mark Hamill, my father, Harrison Ford are having dinner together, they're gonna figure it out real quick.
Corey and I have always been very, very close. He traveled a lot with me whenever I did movies, stood in for me.
The opportunity to be a part of the Star Wars franchise couldn't overlook that. When he fell into the pit, Han is trying to shoot the tentacle off of his leg. An explosive charge went off and went into his foot. and burned his foot. So they put me in Lando's gift card outfit. They hung me over the side. They didn't tell me all these explosions were going to happen. I guess they got a genuine reaction out of me. And then they needed someone to put on Klaatu's mask. He was just a random creature. He was going to run towards Skywalker, get into a quick skirmish, and I couldn't see a thing. It was sort of like a random last-minute thing. And here I am, an action figure.
The big battle at the end, the Death Star, and then everyone on Endor and waiting for, you know, Han will get that shield down. We got to give him more time. Go, Billy D.
We've got to give him more time.
I did 7 stunts for 7 different Ewoks. Every time Dave Tomlin, who was the first assistant director, comes, get into the suit. I said, but I just got killed. He said, you got to do another one.
When I watched Jedi, I was like this, just leaning forward in my the true moviegoer's posture, right like that.
So what we have here is a linking of almost a child's imagination with all the technology at the command of a movie maker.
These movies take us from childhood into an era where we're growing up, we're changing. They're indelibly connected. It was this huge part of my life. We certainly never thought we were going to get any more of these movies.
What I think George Lucas did amazingly was to show that it was possible to execute these grand visions with a level of believability that was something we hadn't really seen before. There were a lot of filmmakers that were really inspired and freed by what George had done on Star Wars. You got immersed into it and you believed it, and that was really wonderful.
Spaceballs, the movie.
The very first joke of Spaceballs is its title. And everything after that is just one joke after another.
May the Schwartz be with you.
Adorable. All of this stuff kicked off with Star Wars, obviously, in the very first shot of Star Wars.
You see the spaceship, and it just goes on and on and on. So many movies like just absolutely copied Star Wars and said, we need the giant, biggest spaceship ever.
When you think it's over, it's not over. And then when you think it's over, it's still not over.
Mel Brooks was able to take satire and make it into a blockbuster.
Oh, no. Not again.
He honored the genre, whether it was History of the World Part 1, Blazing Saddles. He was able to truly understand the genre he was trying to make fun of.
Dear me, what are those things coming out of her nose?
Highbrow jokes that really invited you in to intellectually make fun of the world we were currently living in.
Spaceballs!
Breaking that 4th, 5th, 6th, or 7th wall.
He did it.
He's making fun of the commercials that we're watching on TV. He's making fun of what happens when we eat that much fast food and we become what we eat.
The notorious gangster became locked in his car and ate himself to death.
You satirize what it means to be a completely vain society that wastes all of its natural resources and then goes and tries to take those resources from another planet.
Suck! Suck!
In Spaceballs, they talked about the hilariousness of merchandising. I mean, that was how George Lucas made all his money. How did he know?
What is it that you do here? Merchandising.
Merchandising. Where the real money from
the movie is made. Spaceballs the lunchbox. Spaceballs the breakfast cereal.
Spaceballs the flamethrower.
Flamethrower! The kids love this one.
Mel's just nuts. Dinks. My first speaking role, by the way. Dink, dink. To this day, I don't know what the The Dinks really did. I don't care. I was working with John Candy.
I'm my own best friend.
Give me paw! Bill Pullman, Daphne Zuniga.
He shot my hair! Son of a bitch!
Shields and Yarnell. Maureen Yarnell was the gold robot that Joan Rivers voiced.
Will you turn that thing off? What? What is it?
We were in on the joke, and it was peak Rick Moranis.
Oh, your helmet is so big.
Lord help me, what?
Michael Winslow has this unique talent.
And the creeps.
I'm sure there's more on the cutting room floor. There's no way there's not. It shows how diverse the cast was in their skills. It feels like all the worlds are just colliding in this one little mini comedic universe that we're all waiting for Spaceballs 2 to come out for.
God willing, we'll all meet again in Spaceballs 2 to search for more money.
Still waiting.
Hello, my baby. Hello, my honey. Hello, my ragtime.
The whole tone of science fiction in films really changes with Lucas and Spielberg in the 70s and 80s, and it starts showing us the positive possibilities in our world as opposed to constantly warning us about all the ways we're messing up.
Spielberg said, can't we go back to what I grew up with, which is the beauty of sci-fi and imagination?
There was a very personal, intimate nature to a lot of the very grandiose storytelling in the 80s. And it was that contrast that often made them work. A lot of that can be attributed to Spielberg.
Steven Spielberg's E.T., the Extraterrestrial.
E.T., especially when you're a child, is such a roller coaster because you go through so many different emotions.
Can you say E.T.? E.T.
E.T. Definitely a tearjerker.
E.T.
When he's hugging him and saying goodbye, I'm crying.
I cry every time I see it, every time. This was supposed to be Steven's little film in between all his big blockbusters.
All his films are actually intensely personal films. He grew up in a broken home. His father left, his parents got divorced. It had a very traumatic effect on him. He's making personal films about his own life, just that the kind of canvas is a bigger one.
Everything was changing at that time within our society around the family. I'm proud that I was able to portray one of those first strong mothers.
Mommy, he can talk.
Of course he can talk. I'll be right back in 10 minutes. Stay there.
I felt like I was honoring my own mom. Steven, in a lot of ways, is a child. That's why I think he responds and understands the kids so well.
Only little kids can see him. Give me a break.
There are certain movies that are just so raw and honest in their interpretation of youth, and the Kid Ensemble in E.T. is one of those.
E.T. phone home.
Oh my God, he's talking.
We used Reese's Pieces instead of M&Ms because M&Ms turned us down and said, oh, we don't think we want to be involved with an alien. Oh my God, would you want it to be the guy at M&M's that turned down E.T.?
Back in the 80s, there were these latchkey kids where you were allowed to go out and run through the forest. Back by sunset, darling, definitely a different time.
Suburbia. Your parents were not around you, involved in your world. The adults are just these things out there, outside of the frame.
No TV.
The scene where Henry walks down and is showing E.T. all the toys, Steven said, bring all your toys. So those were all Henry's real toys. I think Jaws was probably placed in there.
The shark eats the fish, but nobody eats a shark.
I distinctly remember the first day I walked onto the soundstage, there was a connection. Stephen did the voice when we shot it. Drew was very young. She really couldn't distinguish the difference between reality and fantasy. We would put E.T. in a corner when he wasn't working. Well, she would be over talking to him. So Stephen had two guys whose job it was to at all times be on E.T. patrol so that he could come alive and Gertie would still not have to suspend that belief. We have to shoot his death scene. I stooped down and I said, all right, Drew, we're gonna go shoot the scene where E.T.'s dying, but E.T.'s just acting like we're acting, right? He's not really dying. She goes, I know, Dee, do you think I'm stupid? So I picked her up and we walked in. She took one look at E.T. and went, ah, Dee's dying! And Stephen's going, roll it, roll it. Clear. The message of the film itself was all about love and friendship and connection. It surpasses our brains and goes straight to our heart. The audience was ready for it, the world was ready for it, and literally, it's our generation's Wizard of Oz.
I'll be right here.
Now sci-fi was viable box office, and now the studios are throwing money at this genre, and you're getting the best filmmakers and the best actors, and they have the funds to take you to other places.
Geeks grew not out of necessarily wanting to be Luke Skywalker, but because they wanted to be George Lucas. They wanted to become filmmakers, and they wanted to understand film as much about the story it told, but the story that went on behind the scenes as well. And this expanded across the 1980s.
I told George Lucas when I met him, your movie made my magazine a success, because when it came out, suddenly the whole audience for science fiction came alive. They want to know facts, information, knowledge. That's what we were giving them.
There's Starlog, Cine Fantastique. Cinefex was very much hardcore making of. Premiere. And then in 1989, in Britain, Empire was born, which I went on to work for.
One of the things I did at Lucasfilm was I started and oversaw the first few years of the official Star Wars fan club. And for far less money than it cost us to operate, you could join, and we sent out a membership kit with an exclusive poster and photographs and stuff, and a quarterly newsletter called Bantha Tracks. We wanted to keep fans interested and happy.
Fandom developed around these magazines. We created a place for the reader to come and pour out their geekdom and be amongst like-minded people. I remember that first great image from Star Wars, Luke holding the lightsaber. It's evocative, it's like something medieval, whether it's the Tom Young version or the Hildebrandt brothers version. It was such a powerful image, and still is.
Back in those days, movie posters were legitimate works of art.
Now we know them. It's this kind of great range of artists.
There was a point in the 80s when the marketing and the product placement and the sort of eye towards what these films were going to do beyond when you left the theater would sometimes overtake the movie themselves.
Hi, kids. It's me, Ronald McDonald, and I'm on the set of my very first motion picture ever. It's a movie called Mac and Me.
The producer, this man that worked for McDonald's, who was this big main supplier, a multi-millionaire, he was probably, polishing his own look by making a film and giving all the money to this company. Everything's a deal. behind films because films just cost way too much money to make. Well, the Ronald McDonald actor in the film was the one that was actually on TV in all the commercials. It was a crossover of perfection.
Mac and Me is the Kirkland E.T. There is an entire generation of people who only know Mac and Me because Paul Rudd shows a scene from Mac and Me on Conan O'Brien every time he goes there to promote a movie.
I get a phone call, and it's a guy that I've never met. And he said, I have a film that I want you to direct and write. It's a lot like E.T., but I want to do it with a family, with an actual person that had a spinal bifida condition. We didn't steal anything from it. It was just a concept to have an alien creature. So I need the prototype aliens, big eyes, nothing like E.T., and animated and cute. It's the kids.
Can we get down and watch? No way.
The lead boy, Jade Caligari, he was exactly what we wanted. He could act, and he was wonderful in the movie.
Please, I won't let anybody hurt you.
It was fun to make the film, but it was extremely limiting because the creature is really a puppet on cables. Everything was time-consuming, but it worked. It's so wholesome in its elements. They were both very cute together. But it's all done on the level of children. It's a whole different world when you're writing for kids. It was a charitable endeavor. We have this building that they're giving us. We have as many dancers as we can put in there. That's how it was created. One of the dancers in that background which we shot was Jennifer Aniston. Can you believe that? Nobody paid tribute to this producer that made a whole movie to help people that were handicapped have more presence in the film business. And it destroyed the kid. He did it because he wanted to show that people that couldn't move except in a wheelchair could do all this stuff. So then Paul Rudd comes along and he sticks up this whole scene with Jade losing control of his wheelchair and flying off a cliff. He did it year after year after year. He has single-handedly kept that movie alive. I would love to sit down with him and write a sequel to that movie with him starring in it with this creature. My wife's always saying we should call Paul Rudd.
The movie-going experience became something that started way before you could actually go see the movie.
A movie is a product just like Coca-Cola is a product.
Catch it if you can. Catch the wave. Coke.
It's putting the name in your head so that you will think about it and feel interested in it.
You have to remember, if it's at all possible, that in the 1980s, there was no such thing as the internet. What we knew of future films was given to us by the lobby of the cinema where we were currently going to see a film. And it was a thrilling thing. There was that little moment where you looked at a poster and you started to make the film in your head as you looked at it. All we had to go on was the title, the tagline, and the imagery. Bob Peake did all the Star Trek posters, Drew Struzan, who's now a legend, and Robert McGuinness and John Berkey and others. Yeah, it's a great range of artists who have become cult figures. And the whole idea of science fiction poster art has become a collectible and a desirable in its own right.
Brilliant marketing. The Michelangelo picture has so much meaning to us. I thought it was a brilliant representation of that.
Tron was a poster that was very important to me. Great visual idea. The Thing had a fabulous poster. For me, really the next level in terms of poster art is the VHS box. Because when you went into video stores, that's what you were using to make your choices.
A movie that had been playing to crickets in theaters was now a movie that people thought, oh, this must have been a big hit. I think partly because of the appeal of what was on the box. That transformed what people remember about the success of these pictures.
What a difference.
If you weren't alive in the 80s, you will never know the unbelievable high-stakes selection process at the video store.
You kind of flipped it around and looked at some of the words on the background and read maybe a few of them and looked at some of the quotes. Some 2 thumbs up, Roger Ebert, you know. But it was the image on the front that made you excited. And our hunger, not only to know about the worlds of the film, but also to know about how they made the worlds of the film, began to grow.
The audience was very intelligent. And I said, I think we can do a magazine that will target people like me that have been a science fiction fan since I was a kid, that really covered all the stuff that I love.
You've got songs from movies that are on Billboard charts. Ray Parker Jr. from Ghostbusters. That was so fantastic.
Something strange in the neighborhood.
MTV, they would take a song from the movie and make a video, and it made it really fun. You associated all those things together, and then you wanted to see the movie. It was kind of an incredible marketing.
Wow, look at the stereo.
No, don't touch that. It's not a stereo.
What is it?
And this is how films grew in our heads. It was a way of enticing you in. These days, they're much more like an accompaniment of the whole hype machine. I mean, we didn't know what hype was. I mean, we experienced it without putting a name on it back in the 80s.
So that's all part of our advertising and publicity. It just makes sense. Who's going to want to go see this movie? Let's let them know about it.
Who are you?
Flash Gordon, quarterback, New York Jets.
Flash Gordon was true to the Buster Crabbe serials and Alex Raymond comic books.
I think if Nick Rogue had done Flash Gordon as the original plan was, it would have been a completely different movie than the one that Mike Hodges did. I can hear Dino now saying, no, he's crazy, don't do it like this. It's too much dreamlike. Yeah, we want with guns, shoot, and girls with big tits, you know.
Dino De Laurentiis, he was like a Svengali. He had this big vision that the movie mattered above all else.
Michael Hodges came in 3 weeks before filming.
Strange object imaged in the Imperial Vortex.
We ended up basically improvising quite a bit.
Yeah.
When you improvise, sometimes you get gold.
Go, Flash, go! Go, Flash, go!
The sets were amazing. The costume was outrageously great.
What was Flash Gordon wearing during the execution scene? Hot pants, okay? Green leather hot pants.
Tip of the hat to Danilo Donati, who was the set and costume designer. He should have been nominated at least for an Academy Award.
Pathetic earthlings. Hurling your bodies out into the void.
Max von Sydow, his costume was so heavy and difficult, he couldn't sit down. They had to lean him on a backboard.
Gordon's alive.
Brian Blessed. They broke the mold when he came to this planet.
To the death!
In the scene with the moving disc with Sam and Timothy Dalton, Brian Blessed is just making one crack after another. I was laughing so hard.
I have prisoners for him!
And the scene where I'm on the table and he pinches my bottom was not in the script. It was a Brian Blessed special.
I allay his suspicions.
One of the amazing things about Flash Gordon, it was the sweetness of it, the innocence.
Oh, it's so crazy.
And that sweetness allows for the room to have all these double entendres.
Some adult content, subtle and not so subtle.
Ming has his magic ring that causes me to have a lot of pleasure. But it works because I'm this innocent who just doesn't quite know what's going on.
Did you ever see such response? No, truly. She even rivals your daughter.
Look at Ornella, that seduction scene where she's sitting on my lap. I kept telling the director, I'm not really getting this. I need another take, okay?
Oh my God, this girl's really turning me on.
I didn't quite get that. Think it again.
Woo! Yeah, that took it to a whole nother level. I was told in the beginning Dino did not want Queen. He was quoted of saying, that's not for my movie. Queen not only complimented Flash Gordon, it brought tremendous value.
It was rock and roll, it was festive, it was lyrical. And that's what the movie is. This is not a dark movie, it's a cartoon strip. So it was supposed to be energetic and fun.
It is what it is. Just sit back and enjoy being transported. If you're faced with any storm in your life, you just call upon Flash Gordon. It's timeless.
The Superman movies are absolutely special to me. Christopher Reeve was so phenomenal in the part. Every time a franchise tries to carry the story on, it's fraught with difficulty.
You and I know that when anybody says which is the best Superman, they say 2.
You haven't seen the best part. Superman 2. The adventure continues.
Superman 2 remains about truth, justice, and the American way. There is no doubt about that. It is also about the villains coming back and maybe getting Superman, and that's the best part.
Superman?
There is no question about the fact that Christopher Reeve embodied Superman. I just think he was extraordinary.
I believe this is your floor.
He was a little dorky. He was more like Clark Kent than Superman. Terrence Stamp remains the sexiest man on Earth.
Kneel before sword.
Jack looked like Jack all the time, I hasten to add. We moved a certain way, and we moved with a fluidity. 3 villains flying along. They'd got the tracks up in the roof, like railway tracks up there. Somebody hadn't quite worked out that when you go round a corner, the momentum swings you out. So the 3 of us start off very well, then we go round a corner, and then we all get tangled up together, and there we hang. Stepping on the moon, it was the most extraordinary set.
What kind of a creature are you?
Just a man.
A man?
Do you know that scene where I kicked the astronaut in the groin? When I went to Japan to promote the film, they cut that scene because it was too violent. A woman kicking a man like that just doesn't do, does it? Margot Kidder absolutely made contact when she had to clip me because we tried it a few times and it just didn't look too real.
You're a real pain in the neck.
She got me so much that I went over the edge. It was like, got the shot, moving on, thank you very much. We weren't killed off, we just disappeared, if you like, to be able to come back. There was definitely speculation about that. Superman 1 and 2, we shot them back to back with Richard Donner, who we all adored. We took a break because at a certain point, we'd shot so much of Superman 2, they needed to concentrate on Superman 1, of course they did. I literally got back on the set and it was Richard Lester. To reshoot the same sequence with 2 incredibly different directors was the best experience of my life.
Eradicate the only man on Earth with...
Kill him!
Eradicate the only man on Earth with...
Let me kill him.
Consequently, when it came to selling Superman 2, it was me. Warner Brothers put me through my paces to see if I could talk about the film without spilling the beans.
The fact that they changed directors was just something we never talked about in the marketing of the film. That was a more naive period where people weren't so into all the nuances of filmmaking.
At the beginning, it was marvelous and glorious and we all loved each other. By the end, it was just we'd all had enough, I think. I often think of the enormity of Certainly the impact of Superman. Everybody has seen Superman round the world, whether it be on television, whatever it is. It's a love fest.
This time is going to be the best time of all.
Superman 3 encapsulates so many different genres in one film.
Oh, I'm sorry.
It was a comedy vehicle for Richard Pryor. It was an action-adventure Superman film. It touched upon contemporary technology of computers.
Getting down to business.
Richard had been in some kind of hero with Margot Kidder. Richard got a chance to do some drama, playing a returned Vietnam vet. And he really was hoping that he would get a chance to do something like that in Superman 3. But that's not what they had in mind for him. Robert Vaughn plays the villain in the film and puts Richard Pryor's character to work for him.
I asked you to kill Superman, and you're telling me you couldn't even do that one simple thing.
Annette O'Toole playing Lana Lang, sort of replacing Lois Lane as Superman Clark's anyway, love interest in the film.
Lois, say hello to Lana Lang, Smallville's newest gift to Metropolis.
They were really trying to experiment and dig deeper into who Superman was. The part of the movie of going, yeah, man, that's heavy. I don't know how you hold the weight of the entire world and everyone's fate in your hands as one being. I don't care how much super strength you get from the sun. Like, there's gotta be a point where you break, right? Literally break in two.
We see Superman, Chris Reeve, Clark Kent, battling his darker self.
Dealing with his demons, dealing with who he is, dealing with the weight of being Superman. It was a very interesting infusion of a different kind of sci-fi into a superhero movie.
A massive supercomputer at the end that produces a cyborg, which is absolutely terrifying.
The computer digging into her arms, basically taking her over and turning her into a sort of robot android. It's a very, very scary moment. If you're young enough, that could be pretty damn traumatizing. A lot of folks felt that the real problem of the third Superman film is that it did not live inside the Superman universe at all. Richard Donner had wanted to and worked on a script that involved a Brainiac and Mxyzptlk and all sorts of other characters from the Superman universe, including an introduction of Supergirl. They came around to making Richard and Superman buds. They kind of give each other five at the end of the movie, which was very, very cool of Superman back in the day. But the movie itself just, it really didn't come together. Superman 3, not the best of the Superman films, but it's better than Superman 4.
A universe of magic. Heavy metal.
Heavy Metal, the movie, was a very interesting experience for young 14-year-old me. Yeah, my worldview shifted after watching that film.
I was a fan of the magazine, a fan of the art, fan of the storytelling. It played into my interests in a very natural way. I'd say it would be great as an animated film.
My powers continue.
And showed you the possibility of animation and sci-fi and more sophisticated ideas. Beautiful, but it's also really subversive and countercultural.
I tell you, I'm an American citizen. I just lost my papers or something. Goddamn illegal aliens.
The source material, the heavy metal stories, really in themselves had a kind of level of explicitness that was freeing, I think, for the artist. I saw that as something that was quite fun and delicious.
I'm afraid that I'll come home one day and find you screwing the toaster.
You'll just have to trust me.
Jerry Potterton was a really fine animation director in Canada. I sort of enlisted him as a kind of a central filmmaking group to tell this story. Len Bloom and Dan Goldberg, who I'd worked with on Meatballs. They came up with that sort of magical, sort of deadly green ball from outer space as a way of sort of linking the stories together.
Someone always finds me.
My favorite sequence in Heavy Metal is Den.
Can I slit his throat, Your Majesty?
Yes.
I like the Heavy Metal magazine. It's actually an adept recreation of that vibe.
And if I refuse?
If you refuse, you die. She dies. Everybody dies.
Sounded reasonable to me.
The B-17 bomber that crashes on the island with the zombies. That's probably my favorite individual vignette from the film.
Nosedive!
The two space pilots that get high on the space cocaine is also a funny one.
Tarna was a huge Mobius fan and wanted to sort of give him all due respect.
Maybe she wants to fight. I want her dead!
What I remember about Heavy Metal is the music in that film. All of the bands that have a song in that film. I have cranked that soundtrack so many times over the years. I wore out so many cassette tapes.
Yeah, the future is pretty well illustrated by Musk sticking a Tesla into space, like the opening of the Heavy Metal movie.
I wish we could have finished it in a slightly more complete way. I mean, we were working under the gun in terms of timetable, in terms of budget, but I'm still quite taken by how still effective it was. I think we were just really ahead of the curve in all sorts of ways.
Okay, sucker. Hand over your cash. Now!
We all know that the hero's journey is fundamentally a part of many stories in science fiction. Usually a single character who is initiating some adventure, some call to action, and that there is this tremendous transformation.
Father, the sleeper has awakened!
Where do I come from? Why do I matter? What can I do to contribute to the universe in a real meaningful way? When we connect to heroes, those are our ideal selves.
Flash Gordon, he's just a guy. He doesn't have any superpowers, relies solely on his wit and his athleticism.
They carry attributes and features that we want to see in ourselves. Brave, courageous, taking risks, being compassionate, being vulnerable, intelligent. When we're in these moments with these characters, feeling the fear, the phobia, the desperation, sometimes even grief.
Why not make me an offer?
We all need to see the hero have those things to relate to them.
Alex is essentially a very reluctant hero. I mean, I would say a coward, really.
There's been a big mistake.
Am I to understand you're actually declining the honor of becoming a starfighter?
You got it. What are you, a coward?
Are you a coward?
Which I found very believable.
We also come to learn that heroic actions do not have to be huge, extraordinary, broad things. They can be small, very meaningful actions.
It is illogical for you to perform this energy-packed transplant.
I like unsung heroes. I like the people who nobody ever talks about.
Hold them in the security tower and keep it quiet. Move.
If you boil down the classics as we know them, Empire Strikes Back, E.T., The Terminator, what unites them all is humanity, and is the way that the directors and the writers create character that's accessible.
When you've gotten past the energy shield, proceed directly to the rendezvous point.
Women like Princess Leia, like Vasquez, like Sarah Connor, they're empowered, they make decisions that other people don't like, they take initiative, they take control.
You're a terminated fucker.
We needed to have that as young women.
Lewis received so much mail from young girls that just loved this character. Made them feel powerful.
Just stay away from me, Bishop. You got that straight?
These are characters that the audience can relate to. It was very encouraging for young girls that they could accomplish these things that may traditionally have been left to the guys to do.
We connect to so many villains. They're fascinating, they're alluring, they're different. I'm supposed to hate or despise the villain, but I actually feel connected to them. Why?
If only you could see what I've seen with your eyes.
I had no idea of the power of Ursa.
I have powers beyond reason here.
There's a real outlet for bad behavior in these villains. There's a vicarious indulgence in rooting for the villain.
Ooh, guns.
And I think that's a safe way to be close to evil, destruction, bad behavior, and know that's ultimately not what I'm about at the end of the day.
To be a good villain, you had to believe you were the good guy. Once you believe you're the villain, then suddenly you become stereotypical of everything that everybody wants a villain to be.
Take that program to the holding pit!
Part of humanity is acknowledging that we're not all good and all perfect, that we have elements of destruction. We make mistakes. That's human psychology.
Well, there'll come a day when I'll show all of you! Don't you forget it!
Seeing these characters overcome adversity gives us really important suggestions for our own lives and our own behaviors.
No, Biff. You leave her alone.
The 80s represents an era of a lot of bravery. The filmmakers were pushing new techniques, trying new things. Some of them worked great and some of them didn't. Some of them really show their age today, but there's something kind of wonderful about that they were fearless about the things that they would try.
So there's something I think that's universal about that in terms of age.
A lot of these movies cater to a young audience that perhaps was in a real transition in their lives. And these are times in your lives that you never forget. As simple as these movies appear to be, especially by today's standards, there's a magic to them because of their relatability and their intimacy.